Chicago, 50th floor. Crystal chandeliers shimmered against the glass like glittering ice. A single offhand comment landed like a slap in a room where power was poured into crystal glasses and hidden behind silk ties. "Come on, she's just the cleaning lady. Let her play, might even be fun." The voice belonged to Aisha Wells, CEO of Alturas Corp. She was young, sharp, and far too used to everyone in the room laughing after anything she said. The laughter that followed spread like oil on polished wood, mocking polite performative a buffer to shield against the discomfort of those watching. And the one reduced to a joke stood still. Layla Walker. 29 years old, in a faded black janitor's uniform, rubber gloves still on, stood beside her cleaning cart like a forgotten ornament at the party. Her eyes didn't blink, not ashamed, not angry, only the silence that made a few in the room avert their gaze. No one knew that Layla had once silenced lecture halls before the world taught her to be silent. At 12, they called her the Whisper Queen, an undefeated chess prodigy from Southside who could read a game like sheet music and end it with the precision of a single clean cut. But then her father fell from the scaffolding. Her mother's kidneys failed. Her scholarship was revoked. The chessboard was sealed in a cardboard box. And life turned down a corridor that reeked of bleach. "There's a free seat." Aisha gestured toward a wooden table set with an antique chess set. "Tonight's guest of honor is her." Someone whispered, "Does she even know how the pieces move?" Another snorted. Layla said nothing. She stepped forward, gently pushed her cleaning cart aside and sat down. No questions, no introduction needed. "I'll take black," she said. Her voice was low, neither fearful nor seeking approval. Aisha paused just slightly, then shrugged. "Confident, huh?" Layla rearranged the pieces. Her movements were unadorned and unshowy. Only the muscle memory of someone who had done this remained until it became a breath. Aisha opened strong, sharp moves, honed at Princeton, used in charity tournaments and fundraisers. But Layla didn't strike back. She absorbed each position like water into stone, quietly, patiently, and precisely. By move 5, Aisha frowned. By move 10, the room grew noticeably quieter. By move 19, absolute silence. Aisha stared at the board, then looked again. There was no way out. Checkmate. Layla rose. "Thank you for the game, Ms. Wells. I'll get back to cleaning now." She walked away, her cart rolling softly over marble. She didn't turn back. Left nothing behind except a room that had just witnessed something no one expected. And somewhere between the hush of air conditioning and the frozen shock of the elite, something quietly took root. Respect. Night falls faster when you're trying to forget something. But Aisha Wells couldn't forget. She left the party early, leaving behind half-finished drinks and awkward laughter. The elevator descended as smoothly as held breath, but inside her head, everything was chaos. She couldn't recall who said what after that game, couldn't remember the looks on shareholders' faces. Only one image remained: a silent, straight-backed woman walking away as if defeating a CEO on her turf was nothing worth mentioning. Layla Walker. Aisha repeated the name like a passcode, but it unlocked nothing, just an aching emptiness. Her penthouse sat atop a glass tower in the West Loop, minimalist decor, spotless kitchen, voice-controlled lighting. But tonight, everything felt unmoored. She kicked off her shoes, didn't remove her coat, and collapsed into a white leather chair. The laptop screen lit up as she began searching Layla Walker. Layla Walker, Chicago. Layla Walker, chess. Dozens of results articles about nurses, background actors, dropouts, but none resembled the woman who had wiped her off the board in under 20 moves. No tournament records, no press photos, no trophies bearing her name. She clenched her jaw, typed chess prodigy Southside Chicago. She combed through old rosters and youth rankings. Around 3 a.m., eyes burning, she stopped. A grainy photo from a 2008 children's tournament, Southside Youth Invitational. A young black girl, 12, maybe 13, sat among a crowd, neatly braided hair, head tilted slightly, listening to something more profound than the surrounding noise. Caption, M. Walker. It was her. Aisha sat upright. No doubt those eyes, that posture. Silence that spoke louder than applause. She exhaled and leaned back, cradling her head in her hands. I just lost to an invisible legend. And what kept her awake wasn't the loss. It was the fact that she had never been seen through like that. Layla didn't just play chess. She saw right through Aisha the way one sees through tinted glass. There was no reflection or illusion. She absorbed the tempo and predicted the next move before Aisha thought of it. No one had ever done that to her. Not in college, not in boardrooms, not in any relationship. She was always the one in control. But Layla didn't play to win. She played to finish cleanly, completely, without echo. The next morning, Aisha canceled her first 2 meetings. She still wore the same black blouse from the night before. When she entered the office, her assistant blinked in surprise. She said, "Clear my morning." Then she did something she hadn't done once in her 10 years as CEO. She took the service elevator down to the basement. Flickering fluorescent lights. The air was thick with bleach and stale paint. She walked past the janitorial staff, switching shifts, every face registering confusion. In the custodial break room, she checked the shift schedule. Layla Walker. Off for 2 days. No phone number. No email. No emergency contact. She returned to her office. I pulled up the internal system and checked her file. There was only a badge ID and work hours, and that was when it hit her. Layla wasn't invisible because she hid. She was invisible because the system made her so. No one asked. No one cared. No one imagined a janitor could once make champions tremble with a glance. Aisha pressed her hand to her forehead. One thought echoed through her mind. She used to be something. And I want to know why the world went quiet around someone like her. She waited. 2 days. On the 3rd night, she left the chessboard set in the executive lounge, pieces arranged with white facing her. She sat pretending to review architectural plans. At 11:43 p.m., the soft roll of a janitor's cart echoed down the hall. Layla entered, not surprised, not hesitant, just looked at her with a gaze like a still lake, so calm it made you afraid to disturb it. Aisha stood, her voice softened. I didn't mean to humiliate you. Layla slipped on her gloves, replying without hesitation. You invited me to play. I played. The second match was about to begin, but this time no one was laughing, and Aisha began to understand. She didn't need an apology. She needed a lesson. This time Aisha didn't offer an invitation. She pulled out a chair and waited. Layla stood quietly in front of the board. Her eyes scanned the white formation. Then she silently sat down on the black side, pulled off her gloves, and placed them gently at the table's edge. No extra words, no asking looks. Where did you learn? Aisha asked, voice soft as if speaking to herself. Layla didn't answer right away. She moved her knight, opening the game without hesitation. My dad worked night shifts at the steel plant, played chess at the park in the early mornings. Aisha nodded lightly. No notes, no analysis, just observing the opponent before her, not retaliating, but understanding what made this woman different. The first game had been a challenge. The second is an opening statement. They began playing every night. There was no talk about work, no mention of what had happened, no apologies and no explanations. Both the chess pieces and a silent language had been mastered. Layla didn't strike as aggressively as before. She lured, held her ground, and then relaxed, leaving Aisha to scramble for direction. She didn't play to win, she played to test patience. Aisha wasn't used to that. She liked control. She liked things fast. But in front of Layla, every strategy unraveled, dismantled by moves that weren't found in textbooks. After each game, Aisha would sit quietly. She didn't drop her hands in defeat. She didn't gasp in awe. She just sat there absorbing like each of Layla's moves stripped away another layer from within her. By the fourth night, Layla said less. Aisha said more. "Do you know who you are? I know who I used to be. Whisper Queen. That name's dead." Aisha tilted her head. "Why did you give it up?" Layla sighed. She moved her queen. "Because hospitals don't wait for the next move. Because my siblings needed to eat. Because my mom needed dialysis." She didn't cry, but something in her voice made Aisha's chest tighten, a familiar emotion she had long learned to mask: shame. Shame for realizing she'd never had to sacrifice anything to survive. They began to study each other, not through words, through chess. Aisha realized Layla didn't play to perform, unlike those flashy masters at charity events who were always waiting for a dramatic combo. Layla played like someone who had grown used to losing and had nothing to lose. Each night, Aisha became a student without needing a title. She watched Layla's moves like a survivor's roadmap, someone who knew when to sacrifice, retreat, and walk straight through fire. Then one night they drew. No winner, no loser, just a position that made both nod in mutual acknowledgement. Layla stood ready to leave. Aisha hesitated. "Would you like to compete again?" Layla didn't look back. No time for daydreams. Aisha. "It's not dreaming, it's proving." Layla replied with just one line before walking away. "I've proven myself before. No one remembers." After that night, Aisha started changing the way she played. She no longer played to win. She played to understand more deeply. She reread classic endgames and brought strategy books to her office. But sitting across from Layla, she knew no book mattered if you couldn't read your opponent by instinct. Layla was a living lesson. She played with the instinct of someone who had to make decisions in conditions where mistakes weren't allowed. And slowly, Aisha learned what business school never taught her: patience and a kind of respect that didn't need to be spoken. One night after Layla beat her with a night trap, Aisha exhaled, "You're the most disciplined player I've ever faced." Layla didn't look up, just shrugged. "Discipline's easy when everything else in life is chaos." Aisha chuckled but didn't argue. For the first time, she understood the talented didn't need to prove themselves. The ones who endured only needed to survive. When Layla left that night, Aisha stayed behind alone. Once her domain of power, the executive lounge felt more like a classroom. Each piece is a lesson. And Layla, the teacher without a podium. She knew she wasn't done, not good enough, not fully aware. But Aisha didn't feel threatened for the first time in years. She felt challenged and deeply grateful. No one said it aloud, but glances began to shift. At first, just a few sideways looks in the elevator. Then the whispers in the hall. "Why does she keep going to the executive floor, trying to be a CEO's assistant or something? Playing chess with the CEO." Sounds like a movie script. Layla Walker heard it all. Not with her ears, but with the sense of someone who had lived long under the ladder. The way the room went quiet when she entered. The way her voice changed when she approached. For the first time in years, she wasn't invisible. But this new light, it was sharp, like a blade. One night after a match that stretched near midnight, she packed up the pieces without a word. Aisha Wells, once the queen of her ivory tower, now used to losing, tilted her head. "Leaving already? I've got a few more floors to mop. You mad no?" Layla paused, looked up. "I don't need a babysitter, Wells." The words came out sharper than she intended. Aisha stepped back silent. Whatever this is between us, Layla continued, it's becoming ammunition for the ones who think I don't belong here. Aisha didn't deny it. She understood. She'd lived too long in the comfort of privilege not to recognize its scent when it began to spill into the room. The next morning, Layla received an email from HR, an invitation for a brief conversation about professional boundaries during working hours. She knew what was coming. She prepared. The HR room was cold like a payroll spreadsheet, leather chairs but backs that always felt cold. A woman in a beige blazer gave a tight, practiced smile. We just want to ensure everything remains healthy and professional. I clean floors, and sometimes I play chess. After work hours, after your hours, during my break. The woman pressed her lips together. You understand that this might look like something from the outside. Layla tilted her head. Interpretation is a privilege for those with titles. You're not being disciplined. Good, because I have work to do. That night she planned to skip the executive floor. Let a colleague clean instead. But something inside her pulled her back. When she entered the lounge, the chessboard was set. One white piece had been moved E4. Beside it, a small handwritten note, carefully inked in black. Your move. Layla glanced around. The room was empty. No bourbon, no greeting. Just a game waiting to continue. Like a conversation without words. She responded black to E5. Left no note, left no trace. Just a move quiet as her presence. For 4 consecutive nights, they played without meeting. Aisha would make one move. Layla would reply. No questions, no conversations. But between them, a fragile kind of trust formed. The kind that only survives when neither tries to take more than what's offered. But the world didn't let them be for long. One day, Layla opened her locker and found a small, folded note. No name, no handwriting. Just 3 words printed in bold black ink. Know your place. She held the note, didn't tear it, didn't flinch. She'd seen things like it scribbled on school bathroom walls, slid into tip jars at diners. But this was the first time it had appeared in a place that claimed to be civilized. That evening, she arrived late to the Southside Community Center. The kids had finished their opening drills. Coach Tiana, an old friend, gave her a worried look. You okay? I'm fine. You're not. Layla snapped at a boy who made the wrong move. The room fell silent. That wasn't her. Not the woman who used to guide slow-handed little girls patiently. Not the one who made these kids believe in plastic pieces and second chances. After class, she sat alone, hands clenched, eyes red. Then Aisha came. No warning, no flowers, no apology. She just sat on the back bleacher watching Layla like someone staring into a mirror. You didn't show this morning. I know. I waited an hour. I know. Silence. The wind moved through old brick hallways. Layla looked directly at Aisha. You don't understand. You walk into a room and you're heard. I walk in and I'm erased. They're saying I'm using you. That there's a story being written I can't control. I don't want to be a footnote in your PR. Aisha froze, then spoke quietly. You're not my story, Layla. You're the reason I have to rewrite mine. Layla stood. Her voice was softer but not gentle. The tournament's in 3 weeks. I need space. Then I'll wait for you. At the board. Back home. Layla reopened the small chessboard on her old dining table that night. She placed a pawn on E5, and for the first time in many nights, she exhaled not because she felt at peace, but because she had decided she would not retreat. Aisha Wells stepped into the boardroom that morning carrying something the Alturi's board of directors had never seen from her before silence. No charts, no slides, no buzzwords like scale, ROI, or quarterly growth strategy. Just a single sheet of paper, one bold title, Southside Community Initiative, Chess and STEM. She placed it at the center of the table and looked up. We once promised to build a community center in Southside. We never did. I want to start over, with something real. One board member leaned back, resting their chin on their hand with a polite smile. Chess. That's not really what students need most, Aisha. She met his eyes. No, but it teaches people how to think. It teaches control, foresight, calculation, things schools often don't get the chance to teach before life does through pain. Another voice chimed in. How does this look? With rumors about your relationship with a janitor, what will people say if we sponsor this? Aisha didn't laugh, didn't flinch. What does it mean to look good? Is it doing the right thing or continuing to pretend that talent always wears polished shoes and speaks with an Ivy League accent? Layla Walker doesn't need charity. She needs a board, a real one. The meeting lasted 73 minutes. Ultimately, the board barely approved the funding with 5 votes in favor. A pilot program would begin in Southside chess classes, STEM equipment, and support for community coaches. No Alturas branding. No logos, no press. 3 days later, at an old community center near 53rd Street, a woman in a blue blazer approached Layla. We represent an anonymous sponsor, she said. They want to support your weekend chess program. Books, boards, transport for kids, even snacks. Layla squinted. Anonymous? They don't want to be named. Tall gray sweater sits in the back of the room. The woman smiled but gave no confirmation. Layla exhaled, not out of anger, but out of a mix of gratitude and wary recognition. That evening, Layla returned to the executive lounge like always. The board was still there, but this time it was different. No glass table, no crystal pieces. In their place, a scuffed plastic set she once used in the park with her father. Aisha stood, hands behind her back. You ditched the fancy set? I think it's time we play by your rules. Layla glanced at the board, then at Aisha. Said nothing, just pulled out a chair and sat. They played. And this game wasn't a match. It was dialogue. It was understanding. Aisha let herself be pushed, taking worse positions, but she learned to find rhythm. Layla no longer dodged. She experimented, giving her opponent room to fight back. Between moves, roles began to blur. Aisha learned how to be vulnerable. Layla learned how to let someone in. 2 weeks later, the whispers returned, from marketing. She plays chess with the CEO every night. I heard she's getting mentored. If that's not favoritism, what is? Layla didn't respond. She was too used to being defined by others' lenses, but this time the exhaustion felt different. One evening after a match ended in a draw, she packed up the pieces faster than usual. Aisha noticed. Something wrong. Layla placed the queen into the box. You're used to being misunderstood and still winning. I'm not. One wrong move and I'm not a chess player. I'm a climber. A user. Aisha clenched her fists. You want me to step away. I want to play without becoming a story. The next morning, Layla arrived and found the board still set up. One white move had been made, beside it a handwritten note. I'll step back into the shadows, but I'm still playing. If you're still here, reply. And they continued. But now it was only silent moves. No words, no eye contact, no presence. Only intellect. And trust that the other was still there, even if unseen. And for Layla, it was the first time she truly understood. Not everyone wants to lead. Some people step back, so you can walk forward. Saturday afternoon. LaSalle Conference Center. The tournament hall had been renovated, but the carpet smelled faintly of old glue. Fluorescent lights reflected off rows of wooden tables draped in black cloth. On each table, a regulation chess set, a digital clock, and a game notation pad. Layla Walker stood at the edge clutching her player badge, Walker L. Section A, Board 17. She wore a navy shirt, dark pants, and worn sneakers scrubbed until they gleamed. No coach, no team jacket, no sponsor badge. Just her and the weight of years left behind. Across the room, Aisha Wells was present too, but she didn't approach. Gray hoodie, backpack, blended into the sea of competitors like a nobody. They shared a nod across the room. Enough, nothing more. Game 1. Layla faced a middle-aged man, a member of the Evanston Chess Club. "You're new to this?" he asked with a light chuckle masking surprise. Layla didn't answer. She opened her pad, noted the game, and hit the clock. It lasted just 27 moves. He shook her hand, quietly nodding, said nothing else. Game 2 was more challenging. A teenage girl, maybe 16, came in hard and fast, trying to corner Layla with aggression and attitude. But Layla didn't rush. She countered steadily, extended the game, and let her opponent overreach. The girl's clock hit 0 before the final blow. 2 games, 2 wins. But not everyone saw it that way. During the break, Layla passed the water station. A group whispered behind her, "Isn't that the janitor from Alturas?" Probably got sponsored. One of those success stories for PR. Self-made, please. She's got backup. Layla didn't turn around, didn't flinch. She'd heard it all before. They said her father played with her when she won at the park. When she got a scholarship, it was because of her skin color. And when she lost, she just wasn't good enough. In their eyes, she was never enough on her own. Meanwhile, Aisha was also playing in the backyard next door. She wasn't there to win. She was there to understand what it felt like to play without armor. She won one, lost one, drew one. No one noticed. By day's end, Layla was leading Section A. She didn't smile, didn't take photos, didn't text anyone. She just stepped outside, took a deep breath of Chicago's cold winter air, then looked back at the tournament hall doors. One day down, and she was still here. That night in her small rented room, she ate instant noodles and soaked her feet in warm water. The local news covered the tournament. They didn't mention her, didn't mention anyone who looked like her. And maybe that was something she'd grown used to. The next morning, day 2 of the tournament, she entered the hall with her back straight, her eyes bright. Aisha was already seated on the adjacent board. She looked up and gave a slight nod. No words of encouragement. No pretending. Just one look. "I see you. Not because you're different, but because you're good." Semi-final match. Opponent, a tall man in a tailored suit with an expensive watch on his wrist. "You're getting a lot of media hype," he sneered as they shook hands. "Hope you know how to play." Layla stared at him evenly. "I don't hope for anything from you." The match lasted 43 moves. Layla kept her breath steady, countered with asymmetric defenses. Move 42. She brought her rook to the center, sacrificing her knight. He scoffed. "Amateur trick." Layla replied, "Look again." Move 43. He stared at the board. The smirk vanished. He began retracing each piece. Nearly a minute passed, and he dropped his head and tapped the clock. Defeat. Checkmate. In the hush after victory, Layla didn't raise her head, didn't raise her hand. She signed the score sheet, stood. From across the hall, Aisha clapped twice, not like a friend, like a stranger in awe. Layla stepped into the lobby. No questions, no congratulations. She only needed one thing. Today's board no longer belonged to anyone else. Final morning. The championship hall was so quiet that even breaths felt loud. Layla Walker sat at board 1 facing a man she had seen on last year's tournament posters. This professional investor played chess like he played the stock market cold, calculated, emotionless. He said nothing during the handshake, but his eyes said it all. I've seen your kind. 1 per year. They rise, then vanish. Layla didn't reply. She wasn't playing to silence anyone. She was playing to listen to herself. The clock began. Layla opened with Queen's Gambit not for flair, but to create space. Her opponent countered by the book. Every move was executed like it had been rehearsed thousands of times. But that was the issue. He played like a machine. Layla played like someone who had survived chaos. She adjusted her strategy to his reactions, luring him into minor traps, then retreating just enough to make him believe he was in control. Move 31. Layla sacrificed her queen. The entire room held its breath. Some turned away. Whispers rippled. In the far back, Aisha Wells leaned forward in her seat. She knew Layla didn't make spontaneous choices. If Layla let go of her queen, every remaining piece would become a blade. Move 34. Hesitation. Move 37. He pulled back his rook. Too late. Move 41. Layla pushed her pawn to the center. Move 43. He looked up. No more confidence, no more calm. She placed her final rook. Checkmate. Applause started slowly. Then more. People stood. Layla rose. No bowing. No victorious smile. She turned to leave, then froze. Clapping. Loud. Clear. Not from organizers. Not from friends. From Aisha. Standing. Applauding like she didn't know who Layla was. Layla turned. Aisha's nod carried no pity. Just respect. Clapping like a stranger. Just as Layla once asked. The awards ceremony followed. The host spoke about equal opportunity and resilience. All true, but not enough. Layla held the crystal trophy under the spotlight, camera flashes blazing, and felt like a misfit in the frame. She didn't win to stand on the stage. She won to step off it so others might one day step on. The after-party was held in a luxurious banquet hall. Champagne, imported cheeses, and lobster were served in crystal bowls. Layla stood by the wall, ginger ale in hand, her shirt slightly wrinkled. Her trophy rested on a nearby table, forgotten like a misplaced prop. Aisha approached. No suit, no phone, just real eyes unguarded. You okay? I've never seen so much lobster and so many fake smiles in one room. You just did what most people never dare dream. Layla glanced at the trophy. I didn't do it for them. I know. Just then, a man in a tailored suit approached the governor. He had a warm voice and a polished handshake. Your story is inspiring. We'd love to have you as an education ambassador touring schools, sharing your journey. Layla looked at him. A beat of silence. You mean ride buses tell kids how I went from mopping floors to winning trophies? No, I meant I've always been brilliant. You didn't notice until I had something you could use. The governor's smile wavered. He thanked her, then left. Aisha raised an eyebrow. You just set their PR department on fire. I didn't burn anything. I just let truth stand still long enough to be seen. Layla scanned the crowd, then turned to Aisha. I want to leave. I'll lead the way. They left through the side door. No photos. Just the windless Chicago night and footsteps that felt unusually light. Layla didn't take the trophy home. It remained on the table among wine and laughter that weren't hers. What she took instead was a clap. Not out of pity, not for publicity, but for a match no one could ignore. Southside Community Center. An old building with chipped walls and tired glass. But every Saturday morning it came alive. The clack of chess pieces, children's laughter, and coaches' instructions were the heartbeat of the neighborhood. Layla Walker stood in the center like someone who'd finally come home. No spotlight, No cameras, just a clipboard, a name tag. Layla Walker, Director, Chicago Youth Chess Initiative. She took the job 2 weeks after her championship win, not for the title, not for the prize, but because of a straightforward truth: here every child could play and be seen. Her tiny office was tucked behind the shared activity room. Old desk, rickety chair, ceiling fan ticking, a cabinet stuffed with tuition aid requests and chess set wait lists. Layla didn't mind. She'd once worked under dim hallway lights in hospitals amid bleach and ignored footsteps in heels. Here every step mattered. That morning, a girl named Tasha, 9 years old with braided hair, ran up excitedly. "Ms. Layla, I beat Jamal yesterday. I used the sneak-up move you showed me." Layla laughed. "Is that your ninja tactic?" "No, I call it the Layla move." Laughter filled the room. Layla bent down to tie Tasha's shoelaces. In that small moment, she knew she was in the right place. After class, Aisha appeared as the kids spilled out like flocks set free, leaning against the wall holding 2 paper coffee cups. Skipping work again, I call it strategic observation. You seem to enjoy the silent supporter role. Aisha shrugged. "Honestly, I like watching people beat me." Layla took a cup and sat on a plastic chair by the water cooler. They drank like they'd done this 100 times. There was no plan, just rhythm. "The charity board wants to put you in the spotlight," Aisha said, eyes on a child rearranging pieces. "Interviews, photos. From janitor to champion stories." Layla shook her head. "I don't want to be a symbol that makes people feel good about what they haven't done." Silence. "Then I don't want to be celebrated. I want to be trusted." Aisha nodded. "Then keep doing it. Don't let anyone else write your story." The following week, Layla spoke at a local education conference. No trophy, no resume, just a talk on how chess teaches life strategy to kids in low-income areas. When a sponsor asked, why not focus on a more practical subject? After the center closed that evening, the answer was, chess teaches you to think before you move, and every other subject only works if kids believe their thinking matters. At the month's end, Aisha invited her to judge a citywide youth tournament. At the bottom corner, a note: "I signed you up as Southside's coach rep. Didn't ask. You'd have declined." Layla sighed, smiled, knowing she'd go, knowing she no longer had to hide. Layla opened her old chess box that night alone in her apartment. She placed a single pawn on the table, the first piece she played at age 6. Then beside it, a queen. The one Aisha had once gifted her was engraved with, "Every move you made mattered." She didn't see it as memorabilia. She saw it as a promise to keep going, to teach these kids how to move, not to win, but to believe every move they make matters. One spring afternoon, Layla walked into the community center. She saw her face on the cover of a magazine, not a chess magazine, but City Leaders Weekly, a publication focused on policymakers, entrepreneurs, and those who change the city. The photo was taken at the awards ceremony more than a month ago. She stood beside the trophy light casting across her resolute face. The bold headline read, "From Cleaner to Leader, the Journey of a Black Female Chess Master." She sighed and picked up the magazine. Not angry, not shocked, just distant. They hadn't asked her, and they didn't ask for permission. They took her story, trimmed it, polished it, and placed it in a tidy frame that people could hang on a wall and clap for. That day, she taught her students a lesson on counterattacking strategy. But her mind was on the labels others were pasting onto her. A symbol of hope. A beacon for the working class. The new face of self-made success. But in that same class, there was Jamal, a 7-year-old boy being teased for losing 3 games, and Tasha, who had started asking why the white girl was picked up in a private car while she wasn't. Layla realized that they didn't need a lighthouse. They needed someone to hold the light long enough for them to learn how to switch it on themselves. Layla was invited to speak at the citywide education summit the following week. On stage, she stood tall, no speech in hand, no glance at the projector. I didn't come here to inspire. I came to warn. The audience murmured. A warning that if you keep crafting fairy tales out of other people's struggles without changing the structure behind them, then the kids I teach will keep losing even when they play brilliantly. She paused, then said slowly, I don't need applause. I need my kids to stop being called exceptions when they're excellent. Afterward, the organizers sent a thank you email and a gentle suggestion to choose a lighter message next time. She didn't reply. Aisha came by on a Monday afternoon, coffee in hand, holding another newspaper this time, featuring a backlash article titled, From Inspiration to Provocation is Layla Walker Rejecting Admiration. Layla chuckled. Now they're mad. I won't play the role they wrote for me. They're not mad because you spoke. They're mad because you said what they already know is true, Aisha replied. After the center closed that evening, Layla walked down the hallway in a light jacket. She paused in front of the trophy cabinet. The Chicago Open trophy was still there, dust-covered, unlit. A new janitor noticed her standing quietly. You're the one who won that trophy, huh? Layla nodded. Why isn't it out in the front hall? Because I don't need it to prove who I am. I need that hallway wide enough so the kids believe it belongs to them. The janitor smiled softly. I get that. One Wednesday morning, Layla arrived at the center and found the kids gathered around a bulletin board. Someone had posted a photo of her with a caption, symbol of Southside. Layla took it down and replaced it with a photo of the entire chess class. Below it, she wrote by hand, No one is a symbol. We are all players, and this board belongs to all of us. That evening, with just her and Aisha in the tiny office, the warm light casting shadows on the cracked plaster walls, Aisha asked, Did you ever dream of ending up here? No. I dreamed of having a place to teach. Now I dream they won't have to dream anymore. Aren't you tired? Layla sipped her coffee, gazing into the darkness outside the window. I didn't climb a podium. I laid bricks. Tired is when you don't know what you're building. And I know exactly what I'm building. No one could turn her into a puppet again. No article could package this journey. Because Layla Walker wasn't the face of resilience. She was the one clearing the path, the keeper of rhythm, the one who stepped out of the spotlight, and the one who would never let another child be seen as a surprise. It was a Saturday morning. Sunlight streamed through the frosted windows, casting a warm streak across rows of neatly arranged plastic tables. Southside Community Center rang again with children's voices. Metal folding chairs creaked. The clack of worn chess pieces sounded like dancing footsteps. Layla Walker stood at the center of it all, a conductor of joy. Clipboard in hand, her eyes moved across the boards. Tasha, watch that open file. Malik, remember the 50-move rule, Jamal. You're checkmating yourself again. The kids giggled, but they listened. They trusted her not for her title, but because they knew Layla had once been just like them, overlooked, underestimated, and always stuck with the older pawns. That day marked 32 days since she turned down the offer to appear on national television. They said she missed the chance to be the face of a new generation. But Layla had chosen instead to create a new generation, without a single face in front, without anyone elevated above the rest. After class, Aisha showed up as usual. She leaned on the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. These days, she wasn't a CEO anymore. She'd left Alturas to focus on the non-profit one Layla had never officially joined, but had always been the heart of. I've got good news, Aisha said, handing her a cup. The city is funding the first youth chess tournament for under-resourced neighborhoods. You're heading the organizing team. I'm not great with paperwork. That's why I'll handle the forms. You teach. Layla laughed a slight nod, a quiet thank you. That afternoon, when the kids had gone, Layla sat alone. On the table sat a teaching chessboard. She'd left a single pawn on the 7th rank for months, her quiet symbol of an unfinished game. But today she did something different. She picked up the pawn, moved it to the 8th square promotion, and replaced it with a carved black queen. Not for victory, but it was time to prove that a pawn, if brave enough, could change the whole board. The following week, Layla stood in an old auditorium overseeing the first award ceremony for the program she founded. On stage was Tasha, the tiny girl who had misstepped for 3 weeks straight, now holding a medal, her eyes bright as sunrise. The MC introduced Layla. Applause filled the room. She stepped up, adjusted the microphone slightly, and said, "I didn't come here to tell my story. I came to say, every one of you, no matter what you wear, where you're from, whether you play on plastic boards or from memory, you belong here. Chess doesn't care about your skin color. It doesn't ask what your parents do. Chess only asks, will you keep going even as a pawn? And if you do, then you can become anything you choose." After the ceremony, Layla stood beneath the awning outside the hall once everyone had left. A light rain fell. Aisha approached, handing her a small box. No ribbon, no frills. Layla opened it. Inside was a hand-carved queen made of polished ebony wood. At its base, a faint engraving. Every move you made mattered. Layla looked at Aisha. "I thought you already gave me one. That one was because you beat me. This one because you taught me how to play." Back home, Layla placed the new queen beside the old pawn that night. Not to compare, but to remind one had once been the other, and both were part of her. The city kept moving outside the window, fast, loud, and different. But inside, in a small room on a wooden chessboard, 2 pieces rested side by side. No spotlight needed, no validation sought. Because Layla Walker knew, whether pawn or queen, what matters most is daring to move, and doing it not just for yourself, but to clear the path for someone else.